So I'm James Jaba. I work here in the Media Lab. My official title is Operations Technician, which basically means nothing, but also everything. And right now that everything is VR, AR, 3D printing, basically new technologies that we can use for education, in education. We found that student response is pretty great. If you were in Stan's meeting earlier today, he talked about immersive technologies. A lot of that is basically this. This is just a look at one of those technologies. So the first program I'm going to show off, I'm going to show off a bunch very quickly. So if you have any questions, save them for the end. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. But we are looking at a program called Nanome first. I'm already logged in, so I should be able to just jump right in. So I'm going to share my screen, make sure it's the right one. So this, and I'll get the headset on and then just start talking. All right. So this is Nanome. You basically log in real quick. I'm just using a basic free version right now. And you can create a room or you can join rooms that are already running by looking for IDs. So we're just going to create a room real quick and we're going to make it private. And here we go. So this is Nanome. So this allows you to look at basically sort of elements, chemistry, all sorts of stuff. Biology. I'm just going to pull up some pre-made stuff. So we're going to look at the COVID-19 main protease real quick. I'm going to load that in. And there it is. So they label all the structures, everything's color organized. And you just sort of look at these pre-made things. You can sit here and lecture. And what's great about Nanome is if you have a class that's completely remote, anyone with a headset can download Nanome, log in, join the meeting, and you can do a lecture in VR with everyone around them. And everyone can look and interact with the models, whether it's pre-built like this, or you can also import your own models that you can make ahead of time. You just load everything in. You can hide certain parts if you just want to talk about just the chains. You can also change all sorts of stuff. So let me bring all that back. And unfortunately, I don't really know chemistry or anything like this. So all I can really do is to show you the features. I can't really talk about certain things, but they do have tutorials built in as well for new users. So they have intros, they can show you different tools and different things. So, and you can go about that in your own pace. They have a quick menu here. Where you can start new rooms, switch to a new room, all sorts of stuff. You can pull up web browsers. If you can't have a whole class in here, but you still like to show off these structures that are completely three-dimensional, you get a camera feature so you can sort of set up and take photos in it. So you can take photos of the angles that you want rather than just using 2D illustrations or anything like that. And get rid of that. Although the one problem with Nanome is it gives you all these windows. It's a very powerful program, but there's sort of just stuff everywhere. And in this stacks, you can pull in other stuff as well. Going to load just another thing real quick. So that's the electron density. So it gives you the actual, just a simple format, and then you can pull this over and see the actual density sort of created, made along. And this is also available on various headsets, basically all of them. So, which is great for on the tech side of things. And there are paid versions where you can sort of create your lessons ahead of time. So you don't have to do this all on the fly like I'm doing right now. You can create your entire lesson in VR, save it, and then for the actual class, it's already there. You just click on it, open it up, and everything's there ready for you. So you can make it months or ahead, or even create like a general template that you can then customize for different things. But yeah, there's all sorts of sessions, and honestly, I could spend 50 minutes just going into all the features that Nanome has, but we don't have that kind of time. So if this seems like something you want to try, or if you want to look at it, like I said, just come into the Media Lab. We have it here ready to go. Anyone can use it when you feel like it.
James, this is Diane. So if you have a face-to-face class,
Yeah.
Do they need to come to the media center to use this, or they just need the headset, or?
If we use this on campus, we have the Newtown campus, we have 2 VR setups. We have one in the Media Lab and one over in the STEM building, Science Center. I think it's in room 110 at the moment. That's on a cart. And then, so if your class is over in that building, we can roll that cart in and you can use it there. And all this VR stuff, the headset is connected to a TV monitor. So whether it's you with the headset on, who's going through and showing things, or if you have a student volunteer put on the headset, or even have, for just a couple minutes and then switch to another student, the whole class can follow along on the TV. But that is just a cropped view. Like what you're seeing is just a small bit of my viewpoint. Because I can see all these things, all these different windows all at the same time, whereas you can only see certain things. But yeah, you could either have your class come into the Media Lab, and we have plenty of space to accommodate a large class, or we can take it to your classroom, whichever works for you. And if you want like a more hands-on demo, we can either do it in the Media Lab, or we can use an empty classroom over in Science Center and do it that way. So I'm going to switch to another program real quick. So let me exit this. And I just want to preface, like, if you're getting sick watching my view jump around all over the place, it's mostly because you're basically watching a shaky cam footage of my VR experience. That doesn't happen when you actually have the headset on. It's more, you're watching someone else's viewpoint. So when you have the headset on, it's a very natural experience, but you're watching someone else's viewpoint, you have no control over it. So you see it shaking all over, especially when the person's talking. It's your mouth is moving, so the headset moves more, because you don't really realize that. All right, so this program is an art program. I love it. It's called Gravity Sketch. It's for creating 3D models in VR, and is a much easier way to learn 3D modeling than using higher level programs like Maya. But it's purely 3D modeling. There's no animation tools or anything like that. So I'm going to bring in a reference image using my menu here. So I'm just going to create very quickly a 3D model of this little bird guy I drew years ago. using some of the most basic tools. Like, so you have like basically a stroke tool that you can then click, create, and manipulate. When I select something, I can go into the point system and then move the points around as well, just by selecting and moving. And of course, like all good art programs, there is an undo button to do anything. So I'm gonna get rid of that. But what's great about this is they now have sub D shapes. So I'm just gonna start with a circle real quick. And put a little head up here. Start with the legs. Well, it also has a mirror function as well. So you don't have to do each arm and leg separately. You can start with some basic spots right there. Put in the eyeballs. Make it a bit smaller. There you go. Just going to do a quick turn off the mirror. Little beak. Switch to stroke. Let's make that a little bit wider. Now this is very messy because I'm doing it very quickly. But what's great about this is that it exports into OBJ files. So you can then import it into other programs, whether it's other 3D modeling programs like Maya or Blender. You can throw textures on it. You can change colors in this as well. But it's not really too intense. This is more about just creating a quick 3D models. And you can also print these models as well. We have a 3D printer in the Media Lab, so you could create a 3D model here in the Media Lab in VR, export it, move over to one of our Macs or PCs, put the model into our slicer program, create the print file, and then 3D print it. So you can have an entire creation made exclusively in the Media Lab. It also has a layers function, so you can always start another layer, lock the old one, and then draw a new one without changing anything. And there you go. You can also go back, unlock. Like I showed with that tool, you can also go in and edit these as well. Change my selection tool. And what's really cool about Gravity Sketch is it can create 3D models to scale. So if you want to create a car or furniture or clothing, you can do that entirely in Gravity Sketch on a mannequin, essentially, and create that in person to scale and then export it into another program if you like. It's used professionally by a couple of car companies. I believe Puma designs a lot of their shoes, like their first pass designs are done in Gravity Sketch. You can also have up to, I think, 4 people in a single room, all working at the same time on the same 3D model. You just see them as 3D avatars in the same place. And you can work collaborative workspace with anyone in the world. All they need is a VR headset and internet, and you can jump into Gravity Sketch, which is another free program. You don't have to, there's no subscription service or anything like that. For the basic version, you can just download this on basically any modern VR headset and start 3D modeling without any prior experience with other 3D modeling programs. It's a great tool. I always recommend it for new Oculus Quest users because you don't have to pay a dime, and it's not like another shooting game or rhythm game or anything like that. It's a very unique experience. You can make actual items, whether they're 3D prints or whatever. You can start that process here. And they have a bunch of different shapes to start with. You can either start with flat circles, squares, rectangles, column. There is 3D text tools, but it's very rudimentary. There is an education version, which is also free, but there are certain requirements that we don't reach yet. But if we can get more VR headsets to accommodate a class, we could get the education version for free, which is a lot more robust and gives you a lot of extra features. But yeah, all you have to do is just create a landing pad account, which is how they organize all your save files and everything. And then you can log into that on any computer, anywhere. You just go to landingpad.com, log in, and then you can download on any of your files or upload any reference images or anything like that, which is how I got my little bird guy in there. And I also 3D printed this little guy too. So if you want to see what that looks like as a final pass, I have it in the Media Lab. So I'm going to exit this real quick and jump into the next one. So I have a lot to show you. Not a whole lot of time. Okay. So we'll do, so another program that we actually use in classes right now called 3D Organon. If it'll load. Taking its time. Okay, so 3D Organon is a 3D anatomy program. We use this in human anatomy and physiology, specifically with Julie Krau's class. She likes to use this in the intro 1 and 2 courses. So the first assignment we sort of created with her was just to help students get used to the program. They had to generate a skeleton and they had to take apart the skull. So the first tool they learn is that they can manipulate the model, make it bigger and smaller. So that's about a 1-to-1 size. You make it really big and pull it down. And then they had to take apart the frontal and then stick their head into it. So you can actually stick your head in there and look all the way down the spinal column. Or you can take it apart completely. And as you do, it'll float here and give you the names for everything. But what's great is when you have one selected, you can go into surfaces. It will isolate that and show you the names of the different parts of it. Interior, external. You can also rotate using the other controller. Show you the inside and everything. So we're going to turn off surfaces, go back. They also had to try and find the smallest bone possible in the skull. Just, I believe somewhere in the navel cavity area. Might have been something like that. I forget what they usually were picking. And when you have this big giant mess, you can also reset and it'll put everything back together. Well, it's not just the skeleton though. So you can add connective tissue, you have muscles, and there are various layers of muscles. There's none. First layer, the second, third, and fourth. You got the arterial veins, the venous, digestive system, respiratory, heart, and nervous system, which includes the brain, lymphatic. I have no idea how to say this. Urinary, reproductive, sensory. You can change the gender if you need to. You can start with skin, pull the skin off. There's a floating face, And then obviously the more layers there are, there's going to start to be a little bit of a lag. So if you're seeing any jittering, that's happening in the headset too, because I have everything going all at once, which we generally don't have for students. We usually focus on certain systems and they sort of explore the space. So the way she sets up her class is that when they break up into groups, they all go to different labs and they sort of rotate around. So every student gets a chance to put on the headset and use the actual program while their group members sit next to them, watch the TV and help them navigate, tell them we need to find this, and they work together to find it. So I'm going to turn off all that real quick and just look at I believe the last assignment they had that I remember doing was they had to start with the arterial and venous, and they had to start with the heart area and follow the systems all the way down. So they had to start around there. So that's basically the heart right there. And let me put that back in and remove the pericardium. So, and what's great too is actually you can take apart the heart, and just like the skull, you can get in there and actually get in nice and close. Actually see how everything fits. Like you see all these illustrations, even the physical models usually don't have everything, or there might be something missing, or you might have trouble understanding how things fit together. This just does it intuitively. You just take it apart and do whatever you want with it and follow it down. So they had to start with the ascending aorta, and they had to find that and follow it all the way down to the feet and sort of label the parts as they went. And so they not just learned how to use this program, but also anatomy as well. And it was a much more interesting way of learning this than just writing down names from a textbook. They remembered this a lot more, especially when they used it in the fall. And then when they came back in the spring, not all the same students had used it. And the ones that remembered it, remembered how to use all the tools. They remembered how to use everything. And they had a sort of a leg up on the people who didn't. And we found that students who used this program generally remembered more. Their retention was better. Yeah, you can follow it all the way down to the toes, and you can follow it all the way back up. Make it smaller, bring it down, and we're going to reset it. And if you ever wanted to see what a skeleton with eyes looks like, there it is. When this program originally came out, its default was this, and I have no idea why they would put eyeballs in the skeleton and nothing else. It's very weird. But just like the eyeballs, just like anything else, can be taken apart. And I don't think you really have any idea how many parts there are to an eyeball until you actually load up this program and start taking it apart. Yeah, so that's 3D Organon. We use it in classes. It's available for students to use whenever they want, even if they're not taking this specific class. They can still come in here and look at this. I've had nursing students use this before COVID. And after COVID and getting back on campus, we've been using it in the human anatomy and physiology courses. But and the computing area will be closing in 15 minutes. So let me just switch to another program real quick. Okay. So this next one we use in Jason Totten's class. I'm missing a component. I'll be right back. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show this one because it's not loading correctly. It's an older program. It's not meant to, as soon as you load it, it just takes up your whole computer screen.
Yeah, so far we can't see anything other than, you know, you with your goggles on.
Yeah. I don't think this one's very friendly with Zoom.
Zoom. Okay.
So that program I was attempting to show you was Domus VR. It's a recreation of a Roman domus. Jason Cotton brings his class in after talking about it in class. He'll come in, either me or one of the students will put on the headset and go through the simulation, and he'll lecture while that person goes through it. But he'll also quiz the students, being like, hey, what's this room called? That type of thing. And students seem to enjoy it. And it's a very simple, it's an older 3D VR simulation, but it's still effective and it's still useful. So even though we can't have the whole class using it all at the same time and their own time, he still gets everyone in there to use it and take a look at it and sort of test them as they go through it. We also have another program he does the same thing with called King Tut's Tomb, which is very bare bones, but he sort of has them go through the simulation and figure out what it's missing. So they'll talk about it in class first, and then his class will meet in the media lab, and they sort of go through a little hunt to figure out what's there and what's not there, which is a great use of a very limiting program, but they seem to like it, and also introduces them to the technology and gets them in the media lab. So the next program I'm going to load up is called Engage, which if you've ever heard of VR chat, Engage is very much the if it'll start. And it won't start because Steam is updating.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. And that's ever since we switched to the Wi-Fi on this computer, it's been hasn't been great. We have to talk work with networking. And see if Google Earth.
What's the date of the open house again?
February 1st is our open house. So if you want to look at these in a much better way, please come to the Media Lab and you can play with it during the open house, or you can schedule a time that's convenient for you to use this.
3D Organon looked pretty good. I mean, so did Nanome. We could see more in Nanome than I thought we would be able to, like with all the windows and everything.
Yeah. Nanome is also a very deep program because it's used professionally. It was actually used in COVID research, which is why there's a bunch of COVID stuff preloaded in. And they're also Nanome, Gravity Sketch. They're very active on social media and YouTube. There is a ton of stuff online that you can look into and see actual artists, actual scientists, researchers using the program in a professional capacity. Like there's a very good chance if students leave this school, they go somewhere else and complete a degree or wherever, there's a good chance they might be using this technology in their professional careers. So if we can introduce it to them now and have them using it now, they'll be better prepared in the future. So this next one is a pretty fun one. If it's showing up.
Yeah, so far no. Well, you can see
that. Share.
There we go.
Okay, so this is Google Earth VR. We've used this for a geography class. If you've ever used Google Earth at all, this is basically the same program, just in VR. So I'm going to pull this back. This allows you to fly around and go basically anywhere in virtual reality. So I'm trying to think, let's see, you can either fly around and find something that way. Well, it's nighttime though, so you can't really see anything. Let's go to. I did I thought there was Rio de Janeiro. There it is. So what's great about this program is not only can you basically go anywhere, but it gives you topographical information. You get actual mountains, cities. So you can either go to places you've never seen before. But as you go up, you can actually see it's hard to do this and talk at the same time, sorry. And one thing it does have, which is nice, is Google Street View is included. So if you want to get on the ground, looking at it to scale, you can sort of go into Street View and just sort of look around. Sometimes these are just people's photos. Sometimes they're come from, you know, Google's cars that drive around, anything like that. But what's nice is when you tilt the earth and pull back, you can see all the rivers and everything in a more natural more map-like. And then you get that extra feature of actually seeing it's more like looking out of a window. And you just sort of fly around and sort of explore. This always is fun to play with. There's also specific places you can go to. And some places don't have the same amount of information in this program as others. So as you can see, a lot of buildings here, it's just flat image, sort of like a JPEG laying down. But the pyramids themselves are much larger. They have a full 3D model. And you can jump into Street View and then you're there. There's a camel right there. So, and sometimes you can move around through the photos as well. Some places have more content than others. You can go to Disneyland, which I did do, and in Street View, I kept following the same family because they were the ones taking the pictures. Yeah. But other places, like if you try to go to North Korea, there's nothing really there. Let's see. Go back to Eiffel Tower. I always like going here because it's just a great 3D model. You can get as close as possible, go into Street View, and just look up. And one thing that's always surprises me is graffiti is the same everywhere. You can find graffiti somewhere in South America and then go to Japan and it's the same. Yeah, but we always like to show this off to students, just to get them thinking about VR and what it can really do. But if you ever go get motion sickness during a VR experience, it might be this one because, like I said, you're all watching me from my point of view. You're not controlling where you're actually going, whereas the person in the headset has complete control over their movement. So it feels a lot better. I think there was a castle on here. Wait. Manhattan's always great too, because it has full 3D models for all the skyscrapers. And you can either fly above or get as low as possible and move through. Or you can go to somewhere more mundane or somewhere more familiar. Like work. There's the Newtown campus. Looks like there was still some construction going on last time they took any photos. So it's a little outdated. There's the Tyler building and the library. So the media lab used to be on the outside of those windows right there. So, but now we're located more further inside. And with Street Pass, we can jump in and here we are. So one of the first things I did when I was playing around with this program was go on my commute just to see how accurate it was. And it's pretty good. It's a little outdated with some of the photos, but it's mostly community driven and just Google Street View type stuff. But yeah. So since Steam is acting up, I don't have anything else I can show you over Zoom. So if there's any questions or anything like that, now's a good time. Now, I know I kind of blew through everything pretty quickly, but I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough time to show everything. Looks like there's some stuff. Yeah, so if you have any questions or anything right now, still got plenty. We got, I think, about a couple minutes. And we do have other VR programs I haven't been able to show you today because of Steam updating and our Wi-Fi not being great at the moment, apparently. We also have a VR program that is called CalcFlow. It sort of creates data to go in like a visual, it has a visualizer to go along with all the formulas and everything. So it creates those formulas for you. You can plug in whatever numbers you need to, and it creates visual data that goes along with it. We don't have any flyers for the open house at the moment. We just settled on a date and we're still changing some of our logos and information. Yeah, we're definitely going to do more Bucks Plus events. We did do some last semester, but the media lab was hard to find. So a lot of them showed up after the time frame, basically. But now you can't miss us. We're very loud and we're in a main section. Volume Revolution. I think CalcFlow does a little bit of that, but I have to go back in and check. There's also one called DataViz VR, which we looked at when it was still in development. I'll have to check in and see if it's out of beta and it's available to download. But again, if you have any ideas for any VR stuff, or if you know that there's anything out there, or if there's a topic you think we could look into, let us know. Drop me an email at james.java@bucks.edu, or you can just come into the Media Lab. I'm always here 8 to 4, Monday to Thursday, and I think Fridays 8 to 1. The library usually closes around 1, I think, on Fridays. We started looking into VR programs for languages. There's a great one that just came out called Noun Town, where you learn whatever languages they have in the program by interacting with objects around you. So you could walk up to a car, place your hand on the car, and it'll tell you the name, have you repeat it back, and sort of put it in a sentence type of thing. Last I checked, we looked at the Japanese version, but I think that was still in demo. We're keeping our eye on that one. There's also another art program called OpenBrush, which is completely free as well. That is more of a VR illustration program. You kind of draw around you, and there's different color brushes. You can create your own little VR space or world, and you can download that, put it on your computer. You can then put those assets into a video game engine like Unity, and then create your own game using content that you painted in OpenBrush. There was a instructor, Andrew Ippolito. He was using, at the time it was called Tiltbrush, to create assets for his own VR game. He was making to use in class. But I think COVID sort of moved everything aside and changed some things. But there's a lot out there, and there's even more on Steam. I just really wish Steam wasn't doing what it was doing right now. There's a robotics VR simulation we were looking at as well. That sort of gives you an introduction to robots and how to program them, all in VR, so you don't have to purchase parts, circuitry, supplies. You can all do it in virtual reality first before ever stepping into or ever actually working with real equipment. Which also reminds me that we do have VR simulations for non-credit courses that we plan on doing down at Lower Bucks. We have used them in our in-service youth program with high school students. It's basically simulations that introduce people to things like welding, metal sheet working, manufacturing type stuff. Yes, so there are some simulations that help with CPR. I haven't had the chance to download them and use them myself, but I can look into that closer. I know we were looking at radiology programs as well. 3D Organon does have a feature with radiology, but it's still a little funky. If I had more time, I'd load it up and show you, but I know we only got a few minutes left. So please come into the Media Lab and look at everything. Try everything out, because it's here, it's available. Please use it. And if you're hesitant to put on the headset, things aren't the way they were in 2016. They've sort of smoothed out all the latency issues. Motion sickness isn't really a thing anymore. And most headsets can fit glasses in them. So like I didn't have to take off my glasses. I didn't have to worry about not being able to see or read anything in the headset. So they're getting a lot better, and it's a lot easier to use than it was before. And yeah, that's basically it. So open house is February 1st, or you can come in whenever you have the time, even if it's just for 30 minutes. You can get some hands-on use. We've been set up in this space for just a few days, and I've already had some students who are walking in looking for student IDs. They see the VR equipment and they just start asking questions and they want to try it out. So we're hoping we're going to be a lot busier this year, and we can hopefully in the future expand. We're going to need to update our equipment, maybe get some more VR headsets. We're looking to expand our 3D printing section. And if you're interested in 3D printing or anything like that, even it's not associated with your classes or anything like that, feel free to drop in. You can get a look at that, I can answer more questions you have about it. It's all available, right? Ready to use. But yeah, I'll look into that CPR simulations. I know the company we use for the non-credit courses are working on developing a nursing simulations. So hopefully there will be something like that, at least CPR wise, in there that we can use. So that's all funded through a grant that Susan Harrington got. And we're just trying to find more use for the headsets, because right now they just kind of sit on my floor unless we're taking them out to high schools or taking them to lower bucks. So if you want to look at those as well, I have them. You can check them out. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. There's more people in this session than I expected. So I hope everything worked out right and you saw everything. And if you have any questions, just ask.
Thanks, James. That was great.
All right, cool. Thank you
Hopefully
very
we'll see
much.
everyone February 1st.
Yeah, and if you want to bring your classes in or anything like that, just let me know. Just send me an email. We can reserve a spot and a time frame. Even if we get College 101 classes, usually get a demo very similar to this. Or sometimes we have like more focused simulations, and we get as many students with the headset on as possible. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.